Hello, friends. Today I am your storyteller. I hope you will enjoy this story. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so that we can receive your love and support. Now let's begin the story. I never planned on spending my nights mopping linoleum floors under flickering fluorescent lights. If you had asked me a year ago what my life would look like, I would have said something about family dinners on Sundays, maybe road trips in the fall, or just quiet evenings curled on the couch with a book. Instead, here I was, 36 years old, divorced, living alone in a shoebox apartment above a shuttered laundromat in a small town that wasn't mine, clocking in at a Dollar Tree off Route 14 in Ridgefield, Pennsylvania. The job wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even particularly good, but it was steady, and after my marriage crumbled last spring, steady was all I had left to cling to. Before all this, I worked as a receptionist at Dr. Olson's dental office. 6 years answering phones, confirming appointments, and remembering the names of every kid who came in clutching a stuffed animal before their first filling. I liked that job. I liked the rhythm of it, the quiet authority of being the one who kept the office from unraveling. But when Olson downsized, he cut half the staff. I was one of them. The alimony from David covered rent on my tiny place, but not much more. I didn't qualify for unemployment long, and the savings I had were gone in 3 months. Dollar Tree was hiring for nights, stocking, closing, cleaning. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I needed. I told myself it would be temporary, 3 months tops, just until I figured out the next step. That was 8 months ago. Now I could tell you which cooler fans hummed lower than the others. I knew the groan of the back room door when the hinges needed oil. I'd memorized which ceiling tiles had water stains and which aisles creaked under the mop wheels. The monotony had become my routine, and routine was safer than silence. Most nights looked the same. At 11 p.m., I'd stock the seasonal aisle, plastic pumpkins in October, snowflake tinsel in December, pastel baskets in March. By midnight, the store would be so quiet I could hear the tick of the lottery machine clock louder than the music from the tinny overhead speakers. Sometimes a late shift nurse or a trucker would come in for snacks, but more often than not, it was just me, the hum of the refrigerators, and the dull orange glow from the parking lot's lone street lamp. That kind of silence can play tricks on you. I'd catch myself humming to keep the air from feeling too heavy, or talking out loud when I counted tills just so the sound of a voice filled the room. But nothing, not even all that practiced loneliness, prepared me for the man who walked in just before 1 a.m., one Thursday. The chime above the door startled me. I hadn't seen a car pull in. He was maybe 5'5", wiry build, neatly combed gray hair. His khaki pants were pressed like he'd ironed them an hour ago, and his pale blue button-down shirt looked too formal for midnight shopping. No phone, no wallet, just a single folded dollar bill pinched between two fingers. "Evening," I said, forcing a customer service smile. He gave me a polite nod. "Evening." His voice was low even, like he'd practiced it. He wandered the candy aisle, finally choosing a roll of peppermints and a bottle of water. When he set them down, I tried to make small talk. "Quiet night for you?" I asked, scanning the items. He paused, his hazel eyes locked on mine, catching the fluorescent glare. "Quiet," he said slowly, "can be misleading." I gave a nervous laugh. "Guess that's one way to put it." While the receipt printed, he reached for his change. Then, without warning, his hand shot forward, wrapping around my wrist. The grip wasn't crushing, but it was steady, precise, almost surgical. He leaned in close. His breath carried a faint mix of peppermint and damp earth. "Be careful, miss," he said. Each word was deliberate. "There is a devil all the time." I froze. The receipt fluttered against the register drawer. Then he let go, tucked the mints and water into his shirt pocket, and walked out. The chime rang again. Through the glass doors, I waited for the sound of a car starting. Nothing. The lot stretched empty, blacktop under the streetlight. I told myself he was just some lonely old man trying to sound mysterious. But that night, I triple-checked the locks before leaving. 3 nights later, it rained. By 12:50 a.m., I was closing down the till. A few regulars knew I'd still sell coffee after hours, but no one came in. I'd locked the side door, started counting bills. That's when headlights swept across the windows. I looked up. A white panel van idled by the pumps. No logo, no license plates, just blank metal where the tags should have been. My stomach clenched. The passenger door opened. A man in a hooded sweatshirt and mask strode toward the entrance, pistol in hand. "Register." Now his voice was harsh, impatient. My palms went up. "Okay, okay." I slid the drawer open and pushed the bills toward him. He snatched them up, then snarled, "The safe." "It's on a timer," I stammered. "I can't." He cursed, spun, bolted back into the rain. The van peeled away, no headlights. I hit the silent alarm. 10 minutes later, Ridgefield PD crowded the store. They pulled CCTV footage, and when the video played, I nearly collapsed. The masked man was clear enough. But when the van door slammed, the dome light flicked on, just long enough to show the driver's profile. Gray hair, pale shirt collar, narrow shoulders. "That's him," I blurted. "That's the man from Thursday." The officers exchanged glances. They froze the frame. Same khakis, same posture, same eyes. Harold Benton. That was his name. I wouldn't know it until later, but that night I only knew the sinking certainty that he wasn't some lonely stranger. He was hunting. 2 days later, Detective Lauren Mason called. They'd found a white panel van abandoned off an overgrown logging trail in Pine Hollow State Forest, 20 minutes east. A shoe print by the driver's door matched one from our store. When a task force swept the woods, they found an encampment wedged between two boulders. Tarps, stolen cigarettes, scratch-off tickets, and boxes traced to robberies across Route 14. 3 men huddled inside. 2 were career criminals from Massachusetts. The third was Benton, 71 years old, Portsmouth address on his license. When they cuffed him, he whispered only one thing: calm, certain. "There is a devil all the time." A week later, Detective Mason called again. Search teams had widened the sweep. They'd found a collapsed fire pit at an older site. Inside, charred coins, animal bones, and the melted remains of a driver's license belonging to a clerk who had vanished after a Vermont robbery 3 years earlier. The younger men confessed quickly. Benton didn't. He sat in interrogation, silent, except between questions, when he thought no one was listening. That's when he murmured numbers, dates, fragments, always ending with the same sentence: "There is a devil all the time." I still work nights at Dollar Tree. Corporate sent down new policy, 2 clerks after midnight, always, but the store feels emptier than ever. Some nights when the coolers hum and the parking lot is silent, I see Benton's hazel eyes in my memory, steady, unblinking. And I wonder if he meant there is a devil all the time, or if he meant there are many. Story 2. I was 21 years old the first winter I worked the overnight shift at the Dollar Tree on Redwood Drive in Brookhaven, Oregon. It wasn't the life I pictured for myself, not after a year and a half of community college, not after all the promises I'd made to myself about leaving this town. But tuition bills don't care about dreams, and rent doesn't wait for ambition. My dad had been laid off from the paper mill 2 years earlier, his knees too shot to take warehouse jobs. My mom worked at the diner off Highway 17, but her hours had been cut. I was the only one in the family who could keep the lights on without sinking deeper into debt. So when I saw the hiring sign at the Dollar Tree, I grabbed the application like it was a lifeline. It wasn't glamorous. Nobody brags about scanning off-brand dish soap and stocking shelves of discount cereal, but it was steady. And in a town where steady was rare, I couldn't complain. "Hey, new kid," my manager Ed had said the first night I walked in. He was a barrel-chested man in his late 40s with a laugh that always sounded 2 drinks deep. "If you can handle drunks looking for glow sticks at midnight, you'll be fine," I laughed, though I didn't know if he was joking. My co-workers became a second family. There was Melissa, a single mom who worked nights because daycare was cheaper during the day. Her humor kept the shift light, even when customers cursed at us for not carrying brand-name detergent. Then there was Luis, a lanky kid my age who could break down a pallet in record time. He was saving every paycheck for mechanic school. And then there was Janine, quiet, older, mid-30s maybe, with the kind of steady patience you wished you had when life spun out of control. She'd been there the longest, and she knew every aisle like the back of her hand. I usually work Thursday through Sunday nights, clocking in at 6 p.m. and staying until close, midnight on weekdays, 2 a.m. on weekends. It wasn't the graveyard shift exactly, but it felt like it. By 11 p.m., the store turned into a ghost town. The only customers were night shift workers grabbing cheap snacks, teenagers daring each other to buy condoms at the dollar store, and sometimes lonely folks who seemed to wander the aisles just to hear another voice. At first, I liked it. The aisles were bright, the routine gave me focus, and the crew made it bearable. But everything changed one night in February of 2004. It started like any other Friday. Rain drizzled against the parking lot lights, turning the asphalt into a smeared canvas of orange reflections. I remember standing by register 2, tapping a pencil against the counter as Melissa joked about her kid's obsession with cartoons. "You'll see," she said, smirking at me as she stuffed bills into the till. "You don't have kids yet, but when you do, you'll know every theme song on Nickelodeon by heart." "God forbid," I muttered, and Louise snorted from across the store. The night dragged until 12:30 a.m. The last customer left, a man in a raincoat who bought nothing but a lighter and cough drops. Ed locked the doors and gave us the usual pep talk. "Quick cleanup tonight, guys. Deposits fat tomorrow, so let's not screw around." He always mentioned deposits. I never thought much of it until later. By 1:15 a.m., I was breaking down boxes in the back when I heard a knock. At first, I thought it was rain against the side door, but then I heard it again. 3 sharp raps. I opened the door, expecting maybe a delivery guy who got lost. Instead, a man in a black hoodie pushed past me. Another followed. "What the hell?" I started, but one of them shoved a gun into my chest. "Don't," he said. His voice was flat, cold. My legs locked. They moved fast. The first man waved his gun toward the front. "Registers." Now Melissa froze behind her, till. Louis swore under his breath. Janine raised her hands. Ed stepped forward, trying to calm them. "Take it easy, guys. No one needs to get hurt." "Shut up, open the drawers." Melissa's hands shook as she counted out bills. Louise fumbled with the keys. Janine whispered something under her breath, maybe a prayer. "Faster," the second man snapped. When the tills were empty, the first one jabbed his gun toward the office. "Safe." Ed swallowed hard. "It's on a timer. Can't open until morning." The man's eyes narrowed. "You think I'm stupid?" He pressed the barrel against Ed's temple. I heard myself say, "He's not lying. It's time-locked. Everyone in town knows that the man turned the gun toward me." For a second, I thought he'd pull the trigger, but instead he hissed, "Back room. All of you. Move." We shuffled toward the stockroom, hearts hammering in unison. The smell of cardboard and cleaning supplies hit me like it always did back there, but this time it felt suffocating. On the ground. We obeyed. Cold concrete pressed against my cheek. I heard Melissa sniffle. Louis muttered something in Spanish. The man's footsteps echoed. Then, pop, 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 pop. The sound was sharp, deafening in the small room. I flinched, waiting for pain, but it never came. When I dared to lift my head, I saw Louis sprawled out, blood pooling under his hoodie. Melissa lay twisted, eyes open but glassy. Janine's hand twitched once, then stilled. I couldn't breathe. The man turned the gun toward me, but the other hissed, "Enough! Cops will be here for a heartbeat." Their eyes met. Then they bolted out the back door. I lay frozen, ears ringing, until the distant wail of sirens grew louder. The rest of that night is a blur of flashing lights, police tape, and the smell of gunpowder clinging to my clothes. Detectives asked me the same questions 100 different ways. Did I know them? Had I seen them before? Why did they leave me alive? I didn't have answers, just the echo of the gunshots replaying in my skull. The news called it the worst crime in Brookhaven's history. Triple homicide at local Dollar Tree. That phrase clung to every headline for months. Police arrested a woman 2 weeks later, Tara, girlfriend of one of the suspects. She admitted to driving the getaway car but claimed she never went inside. She got 12 years. The shooters? Gone. One of them had a name, Marcus Kane. He'd worked at a Dollar General 2 towns over, fired for stealing from the register. I'd seen him once, months before, wandering our aisles like he was studying the place. But Marcus vanished. Every lead went cold. 20 years passed. I left Brookhaven, moved to Idaho, then Nevada. Tried to build a life, but the past stuck like gum on the bottom of a shoe. You never really scrape it off. Last winter, I drove back to visit my mom. She still lived in the same house, though the town had grown. Strip malls, fast food chains, more traffic than I remembered. The Dollar Tree was still there, different staff, brighter paint on the walls. But to me, it looked the same as the night I crawled out of that stock room alive. That week, the families of Melissa, Luis, and Janine held a vigil in the parking lot. Candles flickered under a plastic tent, photos propped on folding tables. Melissa with her little boy, Luis grinning beside a rusted car he was fixing, Janine smiling in a Christmas sweater. I didn't plan to speak, but when the pastor asked if anyone wanted to share, I found myself walking up. I told them how Luis used to hum old rock songs while stocking shelves, how Melissa once gave me half her lunch when I forgot mine, how Janine kept a stash of peppermint tea in her locker and always offered me a bag when she saw I was stressed. My voice cracked, but when I stepped back, people nodded. Some even smiled through tears. When the crowd thinned, I lingered at the edge of the lot, staring at the old store windows. That's when I noticed him. A man stood near the far curb, hood pulled low, hands in pockets. Tall, broad-shouldered. For a moment, the wind caught his jacket, revealing ink along his side. A snake coiled across his ribs. Marcus Kane had the same tattoo. My chest tightened. A car drove past, headlights flaring. When the light faded, the man was gone. Maybe it was just a stranger. Maybe not. I drove home that night, checking my mirrors every few seconds, half expecting headlights to tail me. None did. But even now, when I'm on the road alone, I sometimes feel it. The weight of someone keeping pace just outside the circle of my headlights. They say fugitives vanish into the woods, but most of them, they blend in. And every time I pass a Dollar Tree, I hear the echo of that gunshot and remember the faces of the ones who didn't make it out. Story 3. I never thought my 20s would look like this. If you'd asked me at 18 where I saw myself, I would have said something about moving to Boston, maybe working as a junior designer at some firm, renting a cramped apartment with crooked hardwood floors, maybe even walking to coffee shops in the mornings with my sketchbook tucked under my arm. That was the plan. That was the dream. But life doesn't care about your plans. In 2005, my dad had a stroke. It wasn't fatal, but it changed everything. He'd worked 30 years at the paper mill outside of Millfield, New Hampshire, the kind of job that grinds a person down until they don't have much left. After the stroke, his right side was weaker, his speech slower. My mom tried to keep things afloat working reception at the medical clinic, but the bills stacked high. Doctor's visits, prescriptions, rent on the small duplex we rented on the south end of town. I was 21 then, halfway through community college. I dropped classes one by one until I was no longer enrolled. It wasn't some dramatic choice. It was just reality. Rent doesn't wait. Utilities don't care about your GPA. That's how I ended up at the Dollar Tree off Maple Ridge Road. Millfield wasn't big, population maybe 5,500, but Maple Ridge was its spine. A gas station, 2 diners, a laundromat, a pawn shop, and wedged between a shuttered bowling alley and a half-empty strip mall sat our Dollar Tree. Day shifts were chaos, kids running down toy aisles, women arguing over expired coupons, men in neon vests buying cheap gloves before work. But night shifts, that was another world entirely. It was Trina, a girl I'd known since high school, who told me about the opening. "They're hiring for overnight stock," she'd said, flicking ash off her cigarette outside the diner where she waitressed. 10 to 6. Boring as hell, but steady. "Boring sounds good," I'd muttered. "Yeah, well, boring's better than broke," she'd said with a shrug. She wasn't wrong. By November 2006, I was working 5 nights a week, pulling on the green apron, clipping a ring of keys to my belt loop, and pinning a name tag that read Ethan in black block letters. The cast of night shift was small. Mr. Riley, the manager, late 40s, buzz cut, always smelled faintly of coffee and menthols. He stayed until midnight. Sandy, part-timer, usually out by 11. She handled greeting cards and magazines. Then just me until sunrise. Every once in a while, a cruiser rolled through the parking lot. Millfield police liked to idle there with their headlights off, sipping coffee from the 24-hour gas station down the road. Otherwise, it was me, the buzz of fluorescent lights and the hum of freezer units. My first week, Mr. Riley gave me a warning as he tossed me the keys. "Don't prop the back door," he said. "Not even for a minute." Last year, some kids thought it was funny to set off firecrackers in the dumpster while Jamie was out there. Scared the hell out of her, I nodded. I didn't think much of it. But by my third month, I understood. It was a Tuesday, cold enough that my breath came out in clouds when I stepped outside. Midnight came and went. Mr. Riley locked the office and slapped the door frame on his way out. Checklists on the counter, dumpster run before 4, and hey, Ethan, yeah? Keep the back door shut tight tonight. Been some reports of people messing around back here. Messing around? I asked. He shrugged. Probably nothing. Just stay sharp. That stuck with me more than I wanted it to. By 2:30 a.m., I'd finished stocking seasonal, cheap Valentine's bears, red foil hearts, glitter cards. The parking lot was nearly empty except for a single flickering streetlight near the road. Across Maple Ridge, the old gas station sat gutted, pumps wrapped in yellow tape, windows boarded. At 2:45, I wheeled 3 black trash bags to the rear lot. The cold stung my hands even through gloves. The single buzzing lamp over the dumpster threw more shadows than light. Beyond it stretched the tree line, branches swaying. I heaved the first bag in when I heard it. Click. Not a voice, not footsteps, just a metallic click against pavement. Irregular, not wind, not a branch. I froze. My eyes swept the shadows. Nothing. I told myself it was probably the lid of the dumpster shifting. I threw the other 2 bags in, locked the back door behind me, and returned inside with my pulse hammering faster than it should have. 10 minutes later, headlights swept across the front glass. A car pulled into the lot, silver sedan, rust flecks near the wheel wells. But it didn't park in front. Instead, it idled halfway down, half hidden behind the side wall. The engine purred, low and steady. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, hood up, hands buried in his pockets. He didn't come to the entrance. He walked slowly, deliberately, along the side of the building like he was measuring each step. I kept my eyes low, pretending to straighten the dollar candy display. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him stop under the streetlight. He bent down, picked something up, and then turned, locking eyes with me through the glass. Even from that distance, I felt it, precise, intentional. He wasn't just glancing, he was watching me. I grabbed the store phone, dialed the non-emergency police line. Millfield Police. Dispatch. Yeah, hi. This is Ethan. I'm at the Dollar Tree on Maple Ridge. There's a guy in the lot. Silver sedan. Dark hoodie. He's just hanging around. Can you get a plate? No, he's parked sideways. I can't see it. All right. We'll send a unit by 5 minutes later. A cruiser rolled through. By then, the sedan was gone. Officer Daniels stepped inside, his flashlight swinging off his belt. Someone giving you trouble? I explained. He frowned. Couple calls like that tonight. Might be nothing, but keep the door locked. We'll circle back. I nodded, but I couldn't shake the image of those eyes under the hood. For a few nights, nothing happened. Routine crept back in. Shelf stocking, mopping, trash runs. But the following Friday, just past 3 a.m., I saw movement again. Reflection off the glass doors. Same sedan, same place. This time, he didn't get out right away. He just sat there, engine running. I hovered over the phone. Didn't dial. Finally, the door cracked open. He stepped out. Same hood, same steady pace. He walked up to the storefront but didn't touch the door. Instead, he crouched, placed something on the pavement, and walked back. The sedan rolled off, headlights off. Silent down Maple Ridge. My chest felt tight. My legs shook as I unlocked the door and stepped outside. On the ground where he'd been crouched was my name tag, the one I'd lost earlier that week. I stood frozen, the tag cold in my palm. 2 nights later, I saw the headline online. Gas station clerk assaulted. Suspect at large. Details made my skin crawl. No robbery, no theft. The man had taken her badge. That night, I walked into Dollar Tree at 10 p.m., pinned on my apron, and tried to steady my hands as I clipped my keys to my belt. By sunrise, I knew it was my last shift. I told Mr. Riley I couldn't hack the hours. That was the excuse. But the truth was simpler. The silver sedan hadn't come back. Not yet. But I knew the next time it did, it wouldn't just be to leave something behind. I boxed my apron and keys, left them on the counter, and didn't look back when the automatic doors slid shut behind me. Still, even now, when I drive down Maple Ridge late at night, I see it in my head. Those headlights cutting out. Tires rolling silent into the dark. Waiting. Story 4. I never imagined I'd end up working the graveyard shift at a Dollar Tree in Rochester, New York. If you'd asked me 5 years ago what my life would look like at 23, I probably would have said something like, out of here. Maybe somewhere warmer, maybe back in school, maybe working on music, anything but stocking shelves under humming fluorescent lights at 2 in the morning. But life doesn't ask you. When my older brother Julian passed from an overdose in 2020, my mom crumbled. She worked as a nursing assistant, but her hours got cut during the pandemic, and bills didn't wait for grief. Our rent was already brutal. We lived in the same 2-bedroom apartment on Portland Avenue since I was a kid, the kind of place where the pipes clanged in winter and you had to slam the door twice to get it to lock. After Julian died, I stayed. Part of it was guilt, part of it was duty, but mostly it was all we could do to keep the place. I picked up whatever jobs would take me. Grocery cashier, washing dishes at a diner, hauling boxes for a moving company until my back screamed. Nothing stuck. By the end of 2022, I found myself working nights at the Dollar Tree on Willow Avenue. Minimum wage, plus a little extra for night shift differential. Enough to cover rent, enough to keep the lights on, barely enough to breathe. The store was wedged between a laundromat that never seemed to close and an old pawn shop with metal shutters spray painted in layers of graffiti. At night, Willow Avenue transformed. The street lights threw weak amber pools of light. Snow piles hardened into gray ice. You'd hear the occasional rumble of a late bus or laughter drifting from the hookah lounge down the block, but most of the time, it was empty. Inside the Dollar Tree, everything felt stuck. The linoleum floors were dull no matter how many times I mopped. The lights buzzed in that way that gets under your skin, like bees trapped in your skull. The break room smelled faintly of burnt popcorn, even when no one cooked anything. But it was steady work. That first month, I kept my head down. Stock candy, break down boxes, mop the aisles. My manager, Marissa, was in her 30s, already tired of the place after a decade. She used to joke, "This store will outlive all of us, and it'll still be charging $1.25 for gum." The problem was isolation. Working nights meant no social life. My friends had moved on, college, jobs, lives. My world shrank to fluorescent aisles and online scrolling during lunch breaks. That's how it started. It was a Tuesday in early February around 1:15 a.m. when I ducked into the break room with a bag of chips. I scrolled Instagram like I always did to kill time. That's when I saw the follow request, at Lena_Morris. Her profile picture stopped me. Light brown hair, green eyes, a sly smirk like she was in on some joke I'd never hear. I muttered to myself, "Okay, who's this?" Her page looked legit. Post dating back 2 years, about 4,000 followers, selfies at cafes, at a concert, blurry night shots in bars. Nothing screamed catfish except every comment was from older men. Fire emojis, "You're beautiful," "Marry me," that kind of thing. No girls tagging her, no family pictures. Still, I followed back. A DM appeared instantly. "Lena, hey, saw you on Tinder. You're cute." I blinked. Oh, that makes sense. I had my Instagram linked in my Tinder bio. Me. "Oh, hey, thanks." Lena. "You work nights?" Me. "Yeah, Dollar Tree. Nothing glamorous." Lena. "That's kind of cool, though. At least you're working." Her replies came fast, like she was waiting. She told me she was 21, lived a few neighborhoods over, worked part-time at a retail store. We talked for maybe 20 minutes. She asked me to like her new selfie. I dropped a couple fire emojis. She liked it immediately. But then I noticed something off. On that same photo, an older guy had commented, "Damn girl, how old are you?" Her reply? Just the number 2, I frowned. 2? Did she mean 21? Typo? Still, it lodged in my brain. By the next night, we were still talking. She was flirty, asking what I was doing after work. I told her my mom was staying with my aunt in Irondequoit, so I had the apartment to myself. Without thinking, I added, "So yeah, just chilling." Her reply came fast. "Maybe I should come by." My stomach flipped. This is moving fast. But against my better judgment, I sent my address. Minutes later, she asked again, "Wait, how old are you?" Me, 23. Why? Lena, "Oh, cool. Me too." But hadn't she said 21? And what about that 2? Something twisted in my gut. I put my phone down, pretending I had to help a customer. 10 minutes later, it buzzed nonstop. 3 new accounts, barely any followers, generic profile pics, random 1, unblock Lena, random 2, why you playing games, random 3, you'll regret this. My hands went cold. I blocked them all, heart pounding, and then it hit me. I'd sent my address. By 3 a.m., I walked home. The streets were silent, snow crunching under my boots. I double-locked the front door, checked every window. The apartment was empty, just me and the hum of the radiator. Still, I couldn't shake it. I stayed up watching reruns, trying to calm down. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me under. I don't know what time it was when I woke. 4:30 maybe. The radiator clicked, but underneath, something else. A shuffle. I sat up, my throat dry. At first, I told myself it was shadows. My jacket on the chair. Nothing. But then it moved. In the corner by my closet, someone stood. Pale skin, a wide grin, too wide. Teeth catching the faint streetlight from outside. I froze. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. The thing didn't move either. Just stood there, grinning, watching. Adrenaline took over. I bolted, barefoot, through the living room, out the door into freezing night. I pounded on my neighbor Miguel's door until my fists ached. When he opened, I nearly collapsed. Somebody's in my room." He dragged me inside and called 911. The cops searched everything. Both doors locked. Every window shut except one in the kitchen. The latch undone. No footprints in the snow. No signs of forced entry. One officer muttered, "Probably sleep paralysis. Happens when you wake up suddenly." But I knew. I saw it. The grin. The way it didn't breathe. The way it didn't blink. By morning, Lena's account was gone. Deleted, or maybe renamed. Either way, I never gave out my address again. And I never worked another shift without checking the locks twice. Story 5. I never thought my life would narrow down to the graveyard shift at a Dollar Tree in Millfield, Ohio. If you had asked me 5 years ago where I saw myself at 24, I would have said something like, working as a junior designer at a firm in Columbus, maybe saving up for my own place, drinking iced lattes in overpriced cafes while complaining about deadlines. Instead, life rerouted me in ways I couldn't have predicted. When my dad died suddenly from a heart attack in late 2020, my mom's health started unraveling. She'd always been fragile. Bouts of asthma, anxiety, and then a diagnosis of fibromyalgia that left her exhausted most days. After college plans slipped through my fingers, partly from money, partly from grief, I moved back home to help. Rent in Millfield wasn't bad, but jobs weren't exactly stacked on the corner waiting. Dollar Tree was hiring. Night shift, 4 nights a week. I told myself it was temporary, a placeholder until I figured something better out. But months stretched into years, and here I was, still putting cans of generic tomato sauce and off-brand laundry detergent on shelves at 11:30 p.m. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like mosquitoes. It wasn't always awful. There was a kind of quiet rhythm to it. Customers cleared out by 9 p.m., and the rest of the shift was stocking, cleaning, organizing. My co-worker most nights was Jason, the assistant manager. Jason was 32, heavy-set, a little lazy, but decent enough. He spent most of his managing hours watching TikToks in the break room, but he'd help lift heavy boxes if I asked. Still, the silence got to me sometimes. The way the aisles stretched long and empty, the hum of refrigeration units in the back. You'd think retail stores would feel safe with all their bright lights and security mirrors, but at night when the doors were locked and the parking lot outside was just darkness, the store felt hollow. That Thursday in late October should have been routine. We just started setting up for Christmas. I was knee-deep in glitter-covered ornaments, fake poinsettias, and strands of tinsel. Jason was in the back pretending to count inventory. I had earbuds dangling but no music playing. Just a trick I did to discourage Jason from chatting too much. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out expecting a text from my friend Lacey. Instead, it was a notification, a DM request on Instagram. The username, Forever Prices Z, no profile picture, no bio. The preview just said, check this out. Normally, I would have swiped it away. I'd had my share of weird messages before. Bots, fake giveaways, random creeps. But maybe because I was bored, maybe because of the eerie quiet of the store, I tapped it open. It was a link to another Instagram profile. Against my better judgment, I clicked. The grid of photos looked harmless at first, until my brain caught up with what my eyes were seeing. Dozens of girls, young girls. None of them posed. All of the shots were candid, like someone had taken them without the girls noticing. On buses, walking down sidewalks, waiting in line at coffee shops. One girl tying her shoe at a park, another flipping through clothes at Goodwill. My stomach tightened. This wasn't just one creep's gallery. It felt organized. I scrolled further. No captions, just comments. Short ones. Good work. 500, 200, 1,000. Every comment came from accounts with no posts, no profile pictures. A chill crept over my skin. It looked like some kind of catalog, a market. I screenshotted the page and sent it to Lacey. Me, a BTF is this? Someone just sent it to me. Lacey, you. Why would someone DM you that? Me, I don't know. Creepy AF. Lacey, wait, hold up, scroll down. Is that me? My heart hammered. I scrolled faster through the gallery, row after row of strangers, and then I froze, bottom right. It was me. Not some look-alike. Me. I was outside the store, fumbling with the lock, wearing my green Dollar Tree vest. The angle was from across the parking lot. From a car, maybe. My hands shook. Another picture. From just 2 nights earlier. I was on break behind the store, cigarette in hand, leaning against the dumpster. The angle was close. Too close. From behind the fence. I remembered hearing a crunch in the leaves that night. I'd brushed it off as a raccoon. Me. Lacey. It's me. Someone's taking pictures of me here. Lacey. Mia, holy shit. Call the cops. Now. I glanced toward the back room. Jason's muffled laugh came from behind the office door. The store felt smaller suddenly, the aisles too narrow, the lights too loud. I lied to Jason, said there was a family emergency, clocked out, and drove home with my phone clutched in one hand. By the time I got to my apartment, the account was gone, deleted. But those numbers in the comments, 200, 500, 1,000, they gnawed at me. Prices. Someone was cataloging us. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured the photo by the dumpster. How close that lens must have been. How broken the security cameras out back had been for months. The next night, I called in sick, and the night after. But then 3 days later, Lacey texted me at 2 a.m. Lacey, Mia, there's a new account, and you're on it again. The story continues to unfold, introducing escalating tension. Mia notices a car parked across the Dollar Tree lot each night, headlights off. Strange noises inside the store. Footsteps in aisles she knows are empty. Jason brushes her off, saying it's nothing. Police dismiss her after she reports the Instagram account, since it disappears each time. Lacey grows more scared, especially when she finds her own candid photo uploaded. Mia discovers the store's Wi-Fi is being used by someone outside at night to upload. The accounts reappear under different names, with new pictures of local women. The climax comes when Mia stays after hours, determined to catch whoever's watching. She hides in the seasonal aisle. Around midnight, she hears the back door creak open. A tall shadow slips in, camera in hand. Not Jason, not a stranger. It's a customer she's seen before, a man who lingers too long in the store, buying random junk. He moves silently, heading straight for the stockroom, then the break area, snapping photos. Mia's phone buzzes, another DM notification. She opens it. A live photo of herself, crouched in the seasonal aisle taken seconds ago. She bolts, screams for Jason, but Jason's gone. His phone, TikTok still playing, left on the break table. Mia runs into the lot, fumbling with her keys. The parked car's headlights flash on. Multiple figures sit inside. Her phone buzzes again. Another DM. One word. Sold. The story closes on Mia vanishing from Millfield. Police reports say she left town abruptly. Lacey swears Mia wouldn't have just run. The Dollar Tree hires new night staff. The security cameras still don't work. Another girl posts online months later. Weird. Anyone else getting random DMs from accounts with no profile pics? Story 6, I never thought I'd still be clocking in at a Dollar Tree at 28 years old. When I moved back to Tacoma, Washington after finishing my fine arts degree in Portland, I promised myself it would just be for a year, a bridge job, a paycheck until I could scrape enough money together to live off my painting. But temporary has a way of getting cemented into your bones when rent swallows half your income and groceries claw at the other half. The Dollar Tree on Pacific Avenue sat on a tired stretch of road, wedged between a vape shop and a laundromat that always smelled faintly of mildew. The building itself looked like it had given up years ago. Faded green awning, dented metal doors, and parking lot lines so faint you had to guess where to park. At night, the only real glow came from the sickly yellow streetlights buzzing overhead and the neon open sign in the vape shop window that blinked at random intervals like it was on its last legs. Every evening when I dragged trash bags to the dumpster out back, I caught myself staring at the long rows of cracked asphalt, half expecting someone to be standing there in the shadows. Tacoma wasn't Portland, and it sure as hell wasn't safe. I grew up in a small town outside Olympia, raised by parents who thought patchouli oil and forgiveness could cure just about anything. My dad, Dylan, believed every problem could be solved with meditation and a little carpentry. My mom, Marin, swore the moon phases influenced everything from moods to career choices. Our kitchen was filled with mason jars of herbal tinctures, jars of sourdough starter, and a dream catcher above every window. I had a happy enough childhood. Long bike rides, beaches in the summer, incense smoke curling through every room. But none of that prepared me for what depression would feel like in my mid-20s. The affirmations and crystals they mailed me when I started to spiral didn't do much. What did help was therapy, antidepressants, and art. My art changed with me. I used to paint sunsets and portraits, things people like to hang in beach houses. But the darker my headspace, the darker my work got. Faces twisted into impossible expressions, half animal figures, bones breaking into blossoms. That was the stuff people wanted. That was the work that blew up my Instagram. One of my designs, a grotesque pizza demon drooling lava cheese, paid a couple months' rent when I sold it on shirts. But it wasn't enough to quit Dollar Tree, not yet. So my life became a routine. Stock shelves in the morning, run the register until evening, then paint in my little one-bedroom apartment off South 38th Street until I couldn't keep my eyes open. It was a Wednesday in late October when he walked in. Tacoma was still warm enough that we propped the front doors open, though all it really did was invite in the smell of asphalt and fried food from the drive-thru across the street. I was leaning on the counter, scrolling through my phone, when the door chime went off. He walked in slow, tall, lean, skin pale under the fluorescent lights. His dark hair was messy, but the kind of messy you could tell was intentional. He didn't grab a basket or cart, just drifted through the aisles with his hands clasped behind his back, studying shelves of canned beans and plastic toys like he was in a museum. After a few minutes, he came to the counter and set down a single item, a plain black sketchbook. "You draw?" His voice was low, deliberate. "Yeah," I said, scanning the barcode. "Mostly darker stuff." His eyes narrowed like he was pleased. "Good. Most people are too scared to be honest in their work." Something about the way he said it made my neck prickle. I handed him his change, but before I could say anything else, he slid the bill into his pocket and leaned closer. You should post more. Your page, it's the only one I've followed in years. My hand froze. I hadn't told him my name, let alone my Instagram handle. How? I started, but he gave me the faintest smile. I'll be in touch. Then he walked out, leaving the sketchbook on the counter. That night I got a notification, a new message. Eli. No posts, no followers. Profile picture, a black square. Nice meeting you today. I have a proposition. I want to commission you. Name your price. No restrictions. Normally I'd have been ecstatic. Commissions were gold for me, but the fact he'd tracked me down that fast unsettled me. Still, rent was looming. I threw out $100, my low, safe rate. You're undervaluing yourself. I'll give you $1,500. Draw whatever comes to mind when you think about hunger. I stared at the screen. Hunger? He didn't specify what kind. I didn't ask. Deal, I typed back. For the next week, I worked on it every night after my shift. The piece turned into a surreal figure. Ribs jutting out like wings, stomach sewn shut, jaw stretched impossibly wide, with teeth like splintered glass. I posted a censored preview to Instagram and sent Eli the full image privately. Within minutes, $1,500 hit my PayPal. Beautiful, he wrote. Real beauty is cruel, isn't it? From there, we started messaging more often. Sometimes about art, sometimes about strange, philosophical questions. He told me he was an artist too, though in unusual mediums. One night he sent, "Want to see my work?" I hesitated. My gut told me no. But curiosity won. Sure. A disappearing photo appeared. It was a goat's head, submerged in murky liquid. The lips had been carved away, exposing teeth etched with symbols. Its eyes had been replaced with polished stones that shimmered faintly. I dropped my phone. My stomach churned. "Is that real?" I typed. Completely. A slaughterhouse find, modified over months. Skulls are capsules. They hold every fear and thought the creature ever had. A few days later, another photo came. This time, I didn't want to open it, but the notification sat there, burning into me. It was worse. A monkey's head, eyes replaced with black stones, mouth sewn shut, but bulging like something inside was trying to push its way out. I locked my phone. That one's too human for me. I can't look at stuff like that. Interesting, he wrote. You should say that. My dream is to work with a human skull. I've put ads out. No one takes me seriously. Time's running out. My hands went cold. And then, would you help me get one? I never replied. Deleted Instagram. Wiped my profile clean. But the paranoia stayed. At Dollar Tree, every time the door chime rang, my chest tightened. One night after closing, I dragged trash bags to the dumpster. The parking lot was empty, except for a tall figure standing at the far end, under a flickering streetlight, watching. I dropped the bags and bolted back inside, locking the door. I waited there until my rideshare headlights swept across the lot. When I looked back, the figure was gone. I haven't seen him since. But sometimes walking home, I feel eyes burning into my back, and I think about what he said, about skulls being capsules, about hunger. I wonder if he's still waiting to add mine to his collection. Story 7. I never imagined that the place I'd spend most of my 20s wasn't a college campus or some office job in a city, but the fluorescent lit aisles of a Dollar Tree in a quiet Midwestern town. When I was a teenager, I thought life would unfold the way teachers and family promised. College, a degree in environmental studies, a stable career, maybe even a small house outside Madison, Wisconsin. I pictured a dog in the backyard, a garden, and weekend trips to the farmer's market. But that was the version of my life that never happened. In 2019, my dad died suddenly from a heart attack. He was only 53. After the funeral, it was just me and my mom trying to keep up with the mortgage on our small house in Clayfield, a little town 2 hours north of Milwaukee that most people pass through without noticing. I had been living in Milwaukee working a soul-sucking job at a call center, but between rent and bills, I was going under fast. Moving back home felt like failure. But I told myself it was temporary, just until Mom was stable. That was almost 4 years ago. Clayfield wasn't the kind of place where dreams grew. It was the kind of place where they curled up and went quiet. The only real businesses here were a gas station, a couple of fast food joints, and the Dollar Tree where I worked. That store became my second home, though home makes it sound warmer than it was. My manager, Linda, was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, always half-joking but deadly serious when it came to the register counts. She carried a giant thermos of black coffee everywhere, like an extra limb. Then there was Earl, the stock guy, a wiry 60-year-old who swore he used to tour with a blues band in the 80s. Whether or not that was true, I never figured out. And finally, there was Taylor, 19, always glued to her phone, talking about breakups like they were as routine as clocking in. I usually worked evenings 4 to close, but when our overnight stalker quit without warning, Linda asked me to cover a couple of night shifts a week. The money wasn't much, but Mom liked that I was around more during the day. So I said yes. At first, nights were dead boring. You'd unload boxes, crush cardboard, restock shelves, wipe down counters. The steady buzz of the fluorescent lights turned into white noise. By 11 p.m., the place was empty, except for the occasional trucker grabbing a soda or someone wandering in for batteries. That calm didn't last. It was a Tuesday night in mid-November, cold enough that the air outside felt like glass. Earl was in the back unloading a pallet of Christmas decorations, muttering about how we should at least wait until Thanksgiving before setting out Santa plushies. I was half asleep behind the register when the bell above the front door chimed. I looked up. A woman stepped inside. Not the kind of woman who usually came through those doors. She was tall, maybe 5'9", with long, pale blonde hair so straight it almost looked unnatural. She wore a cream sweater, dark jeans, and boots that screamed expensive. She didn't grab a basket, didn't greet me, just started moving slowly through the aisles. I watched her on the security monitor. Seasonal decor, then beauty, then cleaning supplies. Her movements weren't casual browsing. They were deliberate, like she was searching for something. When she finally approached the counter, she placed down one item, a travel-sized bottle of lavender hand sanitizer. "Quiet night?" she asked, her voice light but sharp enough to leave an impression. "Pretty much," I said, scanning it. "Most people are home by now." She smiled faintly. "That's good." Safer that way, I didn't know what to say, so I just told her the total. She handed me a crisp $100 bill. "I don't think I can break this," I said, apologetic. "It's fine." "Keep it," she replied. I can't," I started, but she had already turned and walked out, leaving the sanitizer on the counter. When I told Earl later, he just shrugged. "Probably some rich out-of-towner." Forget it, but I couldn't. People like her didn't just wander into Clayfield Dollar Tree at 10:30 on a Tuesday night. 2 nights later, she came back. This time, she didn't buy anything. She moved slower, drifting from aisle to aisle. Every time I checked the monitor, she was somewhere else, never lingering long enough in one camera's view. When she finally walked past the register, she stopped. "You ever notice," she said almost to herself, "how a place feels different after dark?" I forced a small laugh. "Yeah, I guess so. Things come out at night," she added softly. "Things you don't notice in the day." Before I could respond, she was gone. That's when small things started happening. The backroom door, which I knew I'd shut, would be wide open. End caps would be knocked over the next morning. And there was a smell sometimes, metallic, sharp, like blood, hanging in the air for no reason. Linda said it was the pipes. Earl swore it was mice. But I noticed it always seemed stronger after the blonde woman had been inside. She showed up again the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. This time she moved fast, almost frantic. At the register, she dumped a basket full of random items: nail polish, batteries, duct tape, and a bottle of bleach. I rang them up silently. When I handed her the bag, she leaned closer. "Don't be here alone on Friday night." The words hit me like ice water. "Why?" I asked. She only smiled faintly and walked out. Friday came whether I wanted it to or not. Earl called out sick, and Taylor left at 10. By 11, it was just me in that humming, too-bright store. At 11:23, the bell chimed. Not the blonde woman, a man. Tall, broad shoulders, black hoodie pulled low. He didn't look at me, just walked quickly toward the back aisles. Something about his movement, too steady, too sure, made the hairs on my arms rise. I pretended to check the register while watching the monitors. He went straight to the aisle near the stockroom and then stopped. Slowly, he looked up at the camera and smiled. Cold panic washed through me. I reached for the phone to call Linda, but before I could, the monitors flickered to static. When they came back, the man was gone. The door chime had never gone off, which meant he was still inside. I forced my legs to move, walking toward the back. My footsteps echoed on the linoleum. The stockroom door was shut now, but something was wedged under it, a folded piece of paper. I bent down trembling. In neat block letters it read, Friday, midnight. I looked up. The door was ajar. I hadn't touched it. That metallic smell rolled out, so strong I could taste it. My stomach lurched. I fumbled for my cell, but before I could pull it out, a man's voice, low and close, came from behind the door. You stayed. The phone slipped from my hand. I bolted. My legs carried me faster than I thought possible. I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping under the cold glow of the parking lot lights. My hands shook so badly I could barely unlock my car. I looked back once. The store was locked, the lights still buzzing inside. But behind the register, in the glass, stood the blonde woman. Her faint smile was gone. She was staring out toward the highway, as if waiting for someone else. The next morning, Linda called me. She was furious. Said all the store cameras had gone static just after 11:20. No footage of anything. No proof. I didn't bother to explain. I didn't quit formally. I just never went back. Even now, if I drive through Clayfield, I don't look toward that stretch of road, because I'm terrified I'll see her there, in the window of that Dollar Tree, still waiting. Story 8, I never imagined I'd be working nights at the Dollar Tree on Main Street in Ashwood. Not that I had grand plans when I was younger, but my life had at least felt like it had a direction. I pictured teaching art at the local high school, maybe having a small apartment with a plant I'd remember to water and a cat that actually tolerated me. But plans rarely survive reality. After my dad passed from a sudden heart attack in 2021, I moved back to Ashwood to help my mom keep the house. She'd been struggling with bills ever since my dad's death, and the house felt emptier than it had in years. I took whatever work I could find, mostly odd jobs, cleaning gigs, warehouse temp shifts. When a friend mentioned that the Dollar Tree was looking for night stalkers, I laughed at first. But practicality won over pride. Steady hours, steady pay. The first week was surprisingly uneventful. The store was almost always empty after hours, and the quiet suited me. I liked it. There was a rhythm to stacking shelves, checking dates on cans, and rolling carts through the dimly lit aisles. My co-workers, Tommy and Lila, were mostly quiet, preferring to keep to themselves. The manager, Mr. Carver, was a gruff man in his 60s who had worked nights for decades and didn't seem to notice much of anything. Don't forget the seasonal stuff, Tommy said one night as we were finishing up aisle 3. He pushed a cart toward the front. His voice was low, almost tired. Halloween's creeping up faster than we think. I nodded, folding a box of plastic pumpkins. Yeah, it's weird seeing them on shelves already. Everything's weird when it's 3 in the morning, Lila muttered from the end of the aisle. She had this habit of speaking just enough to be heard, but not enough to really engage. It started subtly, like a shadow stretching over the corners of my routine. One Friday night, I was on my break scrolling through my phone, sipping a cold energy drink from the cooler, when Tommy mentioned he was thinking of buying an antique pocket watch he'd seen online. Old brass stuff, apparently from the 1920s, he said casually. I think it'd look cool in my living room. I laughed. You? A vintage collector? Bet it's just going to gather dust, he shrugged, smirking. Maybe, but it's kind of fun to imagine. The next morning, I woke to see ads for vintage watches popping up everywhere. Instagram, YouTube, even Facebook. I laughed nervously, thinking it was coincidence. But then it kept happening. It wasn't just the ads. My phone, it started acting strange. Apps I hadn't opened would appear active. Once I found a voice recording in my files that I didn't remember making. It was mostly static, but if I listened closely, I could hear my own voice talking, faint and distorted. A week later, while stocking seasonal decor, Lila mentioned in passing that she hated one of the Halloween mask boxes because it reminded her of some crime show she watched as a kid. I shrugged and carried on. 2 days later, a documentary thumbnail appeared on YouTube with the mask she described. Exact color, cracked smile, everything. I started feeling watched. At first, it was subtle, a prickle at the base of my neck, the feeling of eyes following me across aisles when the store was empty. I told myself it was paranoia, but then I noticed the van, a plain white van parked across the street from the store every night I left. No plates, no logos, engine running sometimes, sometimes not, always there. I rationalized early morning delivery guy, maybe a construction crew, but something about it didn't sit right. I decided to test things. On my break, I loudly told Tommy that I was thinking about buying a specific antique wall clock, a 1930s oak case with Roman numerals and a brass pendulum. I made sure to exaggerate details to make it memorable. That night, I left my phone at home, thinking I'd avoid the creepy coincidences. By the next evening, I found ads for antique clock auctions in towns I'd never heard of. My stomach dropped. That's when I stopped bringing my phone to work. But it wasn't just the phone anymore. One night, while shelving cleaning supplies alone, the store's PA system crackled. I froze. Static hissed through the speakers, and then I heard it, my own voice. "Creeps me out how quiet this street is," it said. Word for word, I had said that to Lila 2 weeks ago. I dropped the bottle I was holding. My hands shook. I grabbed my jacket and ran to the back door. Outside, the white van sat across the street again. This time, the engine was off. The driver's door was open. I could have sworn I saw a figure in the doorway of the store, masked with the same cracked smile I'd seen in the documentaries in Lila's story. I didn't stick around to confirm it. I quit the next morning. Since then, I've taken precautions. Every electronic device I own is wrapped in aluminum foil when not in use. I avoid social media. I pay cash for everything. But sometimes my old smartphone, the one I thought I'd destroyed, appears where I haven't left it. A week ago, half asleep in bed, it started playing a recording. My voice saying, "Don't think too hard about it or you'll go crazy." Only I never said that. And that's when I realized it's not just the store, the van, or the algorithms. Something or someone has been listening, watching, and waiting all along.